Powered by Riverside FM.
The Minnesota Vikings schedule dropped a couple of days ago, and, it creates a really exciting time for Minnesota Vikings fans. There's a lot of looking at the schedule and trying to pick out the games that the Minnesota Vikings can win, and look out at some of the games where maybe the Minnesota Vikings may have a little bit of trouble and may drop those games. I do think it's a little bit too early for that, so I want to kind of stay away from that because the team right now is going to be so different compared to the team that is going to take the field week one. You're going to have probably some more free agent pickups. There are going to be players that are going to be released. You also have training camp. You don't know which UDFAs are going to rise to the top. There's so many variables going into the season where you just have to wait and hold off and see what other teams are going to do, because that's going to kind of skew your win-loss record in terms of predictions for the Minnesota Vikings. I may do one early and then keep it fluid as we find out more information leading up to the first game of the season. So I may do a couple of videos about that. I think it's fun to kind of speculate and see what other people in UP Nation think. But right now I want to pick out the top 5 must games that I think are must-watch games for the Minnesota Vikings this year. The box office games, the games that are intriguing, the games that are probably going to mean the most for the Minnesota Vikings, the matchups that are just can't-miss matchups. Number 1, I think the can't-miss matchup that I got to see is the first game of the season. Monday Night Football, the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams versus J.J. McCarthy. Now all the stories are coming out about Caleb Williams wanting to play for the Purple. How about that, man? Caleb Williams wanting to play for the Purple. Man, and when I look at that, when you look at him and his dad, communicating with each other that they're going to try to make this happen, I don't know how you do that. I don't think the Minnesota Vikings were going to give up multiple first-round draft picks to move up and take Caleb Williams. I don't think he was that coming out of college. That was just my opinion. I wouldn't give up the farm for Caleb Williams. I can see teams looking at his talent and wanting to pick him first. I just don't see the Minnesota Vikings giving up the farm. So that would be the only way that he would have got to the Vikings, unless he would have dropped significantly in the draft, which I really didn't see that happening. But leading up into that game, and there's going to be a lot of talk about that, it's going to be J.J. McCarthy's first game. It's going to be his first game under the spotlight, national spotlight, on Monday Night Football. J.J. McCarthy, welcome to the NFL against a much-improved Chicago Bears with a really respected defense on that side of the ball. I think it's a good game to catch Chicago Bears. New coach, new system, new way of doing things. If you're going to get the Bears, you want to get them early. I think there's going to be a lot of intrigue about this game. I like it for J.J. McCarthy because it's not going to be a bad weather game. You want to go to Soldier Field early so you're not dealing with the snow and the wind and all of that crap. But I think for J.J. McCarthy, I think it's a winnable first game against national stage. Man, that game is going to be box office. Everybody is going to be tuned in for that game. Number one, to see Caleb Williams and the newly revamped Chicago Bears, but also J.J. McCarthy's debut. I think that's going to be the bulk of it. So, number one for me, man, it's that first game, that Chicago Bears game. Now, these games are not in any particular order, so I'm not ranking them. I'm just saying these are the top 5 games that I feel like you got to check out. Then you got the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions, enough said. It seems like every time we play the Philadelphia Eagles, they kick our butts. It's time. We got a newly revamped team. It's time to start, really kicking their butt a little bit. When's the last time we've beaten the Eagles? They always seem to kind of control the physical side of the game. I think the Minnesota Vikings are a much physical team this year, revamping the trenches to be able to deal with teams like the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, the highlight's going to be J.J. McCarthy versus Super Bowl champ Jalen Hurts. You're going to have Jefferson possibly versus a guy like Darius Slay. Is this a revenge game? I don't know if it's a revenge game, but I think it's a respect game. Because, again, for the last few times we played them, they've really controlled us. And it's time to flip that coin, man. It's time to flip that coin. If there is ever a year that the Minnesota Vikings were going to flip this thing and be the more physical team and finally take care of the Philadelphia Eagles, it should be this year. It should be this year. The next game on the docket, man, Christmas Day. Another must-watch game. You've got the Detroit Lions. Why is this game important to watch? Well, the Detroit Lions, best team in your league. They've been the best team in your league the last 2 years. You know, if you're going to be the bully, you got to knock off the bully. You got to go on the block and let the bully know that you're here. And I think that's going to be a game where the Minnesota Vikings are going to have to let the Detroit Lions know that they're here. They swept the Minnesota Vikings last year. All these Detroit Lions fans, you know, commenting on unconventional playbook, giving me stuff because I picked the Vikings to destroy the Lions. Well, I'm picking them again. This is a newly revamped team. It's going to be a can't-miss game on Christmas. Man, I'm thinking about going down to that game. You know, I don't like that. There's just lots of traditions that I like to do on Christmas, but I think me and the family going down there would be a lot of fun. So I'm thinking about it, UP Nation. I'm thinking about it. I might see you there. But this game is going to be a box office game. I think losing their two defense coordinators is going to hurt the Detroit Lions more than help the Detroit Lions. I'm telling you right now, people are not making a big deal about that. When you lose your coordinators and these guys are calling the majority of your snaps, I know that the head coach is chiming in from time to time, but when you are a play caller, that is about a certain type of personality. So you are losing your personality on the defensive side of the ball. You're also losing your personality on the offensive side of the ball. The scheme may be the same, but the personality of the human being that's calling the plays, dude, that's going to be a lot different for the Detroit Lions. And I think they're underestimating that going into the season. Man, my fourth game is Seattle Seahawks. Dude, you got it. It's J.J. McCarthy versus Sam Darnold. I predict that Sam Darnold, his first couple of games, he's going to start off pretty good. As people start to build a playbook against him with the Seattle Seahawks, because I think that matters. Different system than the Minnesota Vikings. I think you're going to see Sam Darnold start to fold tent. I think he's going to revert, not back to the bust or garbage Sam Darnold. I think it's just going to revert back to a non-MVP average quarterback type Sam Darnold. That's my prediction. And who knows Sam Darnold better than B-Flow? If I am Sam Darnold, man, I want to catch a cold that game. I want to be sick that game. I want to have the flu that game because I just don't want to see B-Flow and the boys because they know where he is weak, man. Can you imagine what that game is going to look like? But that's going to be an intriguing game. And then to round out my top five, man, the last Green Bay Packer game, you know that game is going to have some type of significance for the playoffs. Jordan Love versus J.J. McCarthy. Man, I think that game is going to have a significant amount of impact when it comes to the playoff race. You always know that the Green Bay Packers are going to be decent. So they're going to be around in the conversation in terms of winning the division, fighting for a playoff spot. They're not going to fall off like that. I don't think that they're going to be garbage, but I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be right there with them vying for a spot. So this is going to come down like it did last year for a higher seed, a game at home, who's going to be the wild card, stuff like that. So again, I'm not ready to predict the Minnesota Vikings win-loss record yet, although I may put out something early. And just allow the thing to sit and be fluid. And as the Minnesota Vikings start adding and deleting players from their roster, you know, the more we start to see J.J. McCarthy in these mini camps and then in training camp, my ideas about the win-loss record will change. So I will keep it as fluid as possible. UP Nation, if you're ready to predict, what's the Minnesota Vikings record after the season last year? 17 games. Schedule is out. I want to hear from UP Nation before I start to chime in on this thing. What's the win-loss record? And give me also some important games that you think are must-watch games for this year for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, some people might say it's the Chargers. You got the Harbaugh connection. Who knows? J.J. McCarthy better than Harbaugh. That could be a must-watch game. So I'm interested to see what you guys think in terms of must-watch games. Those are your five must-watch games that I think you can't miss. Can't miss. You got to check them out. I don't care what you got on the schedule or what you got on the calendar. Delete it, erase it, watch those games. Those games are going to be box office. This is Unconventional Playbook. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will make sure to see ya when we see ya. Skol!